Welcome back, everyone, to day 3 of the Cloud Confidence uh, 5-day challenge, the Speak Up and Stand Out challenge to help you to communicate better professionally so that you're recognized for your actions and so that you get promoted and you make the money you deserve to be making. I'm Brandon Carroll, and I'm excited about day 3. It's been a holiday week, but we've been powering through this. People have some downtime, and we're getting some fun conversations around this. And so I hope you're enjoying this. I wanted to start out today with a quote that I came across. And that quote is that the difference between a good idea and a great one is not the idea itself, it's how you package and present it to decision makers. And that is so true. And so we're going to talk about how to package and present to decision makers today in the teaching point that we're going to cover and in the challenge that you'll have an opportunity to go through. So with that said, let's kick off day 3 of our 5-day challenge. Here's our agenda. Today we're going to recap what we did for day 1 and day 2, and then I'm going to teach you the AIR technique, and we'll see what that's all about. Then we're going to discuss the challenge tasks. We'll talk about some do's and don'ts, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to go through that challenge task. So let's do the recap. Okay, on day 1, we talked about the PAR method. And if you remember, that was problem, action, result, right? And so that's a good way for you to present information so that you're recognized for your contributions. You state a problem, you talk about the action, and you share the results of what you did, right? And we talked about how you can use this for every time you accomplish something. Talked about the PREP framework. That was point, reason, example, point, right? So you make your point, you provide the reason, you give an example, and then you state that point again, right? So this is really, really effective. And then, of course, we've had our challenge tasks. Okay, so today's point, we're going to get right into it. It's the AIR technique. So what's the AIR technique? Well, the AIR technique is something that's going to help you communicate effectively because it's a way of aligning your goals with other people's goals, right? You need to be able to align with the goals of the decision makers, with your stakeholders, and be able to demonstrate your impact and drive action and clear next steps with them. And so that's the whole idea. All right. So align is a big part of this. So here's the 3 steps to the AIR technique. This is what each of those letters stands for. Number 1 is align. Like I said, it's a big part of this technique. You have to align first. The next thing you have to do is show impact. And then finally, make your request, right? Okay, so let's go through each one of these and break them down. All right, so align. This is where you're going to connect with people's goals, either the company's goals or your team goals, the stakeholder goals, right? Alignment is everything. Stakeholders care about how your recommendations that are technical in nature are going to tie into what they have to prioritize in their job function. So here's some examples, and we'll tie this into cloud security, right? So number 1, reducing risks, right? It might be this initiative will mitigate X number of vulnerabilities identified during our last audit, right? That's something that they can connect. Maybe you're trying to drive efficiency. That's where it might be automating these security scans aligns with our goal to speed up the deployments in our organization, right? So you align it. And then maybe you're trying to support compliance. You're working with somebody who deals with compliance. This plan makes sure that we stay compliant with regulations. Could be HIPAA, GDPR, whatever it is, right? So this is the alignment, and it's the first step, and it's a really important step. Okay, so then what is the next step? Well, the next step is impact. Impact, you have to show the clear benefits of what you're proposing, right? So once you're aligned, you know how it fits together. Now you need to demonstrate the specific benefits, and it's a good idea to use data, real world scenarios, examples when you do this. So for example, cost savings, right? If we move to a cloud firewall, cloud native firewall, maybe AWS network firewall, right? We'll reduce costs by 20% annually, right? Okay, so that shows some impact. Maybe you're going to improve security posture. So automating IAM provisioning is going to get rid of manual errors. We don't want those. It's also going to reduce unauthorized access incidents. That's impact. And you need to demonstrate that. Very clear, very concise. Maybe it's faster response times, right? So if you deploy these monitoring tools, it's going to help us detect and resolve threats in half the time. Okay. So again, show the impact, right? You've already aligned. Now you're demonstrating the impact. Now it's time for your request. The request, when you make the request, share an illustration or a case study, right? This is actually where most people mess this up, right? In this whole AIR technique, they don't actually ask for anything, right? They never get to that point. But you need to, and you need to be specific, and it has to be actionable. So here's one example. I'd like approval to initiate a proof of concept for my solution. Or can we schedule a meeting with finance so that we can review the budget impact? Or, hey, I recommend implementing this change in our next sprint. Can we prioritize that? See, that's very specific. It's clear. It's actionable. Okay, so here's your tips, right? Now that you've got all the pieces of the AIR method, here's some tips, okay? These are your do's and don'ts. When you're going to have a conversation like this where you're going to ask for something, schedule a convenient time to do it, where you're going to have the attention of whoever you're talking with. Start with appreciation and be specific with those numbers and that data that you share, the stuff that shows impact. Be specific. Then when you share that ask, when you make that request, listen actively to their feedback, right? And when you end the conversation, make sure you have clear action items. Here's what you don't want to do. Don't apologize for taking their time, right? You have a solution. That's why you're making the request. It's going to have impact. There's no reason to apologize for that, right? Avoid rambling and avoid going into way too much detail, right? All you have to do is make sure you're aligned, show the impact, and make the request. That's it. That's it. Don't over-explain things. You get into the weeds, and now things are unclear. You want to be very clear and concise. Also, when they ask you questions, don't get defensive, right? Maybe they don't feel aligned yet, right? And that's what you want to look for. So don't dismiss their concerns, and don't leave without next steps. You always want to have a next step, okay? So that's the AIR method. That's day 3. Here's your challenge. This is what you're going to do. I want you to pick a cloud or a cybersecurity initiative that you think would benefit your organization. Or maybe you don't work at an organization yet that has something. Pick one of these 3 things here, and that's good practice for you. Maybe you want to automate IAM provisioning. Maybe you want to implement a vulnerability scanning tool, or maybe it's some kind of incident response process that you think you can make better, right? Pick one of those. I want you to structure it using the AIR technique, and then I want you to post it into the group. All right. If you use a real world example, make sure you don't share any information that is sensitive. Make sure it's sanitized. Share it with the group, and let's continue to get better. That's day 3. I look forward to talking and chatting with you in the group, either on Facebook or LinkedIn. So post the challenge results there, and I'll see you again tomorrow at the same time for day 4 of our challenge. See you later, everybody.